welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. We hope that today, your day is just gonna rock as a direct result of today's show. I'm so excited today to bring you one of our friends, a friend to the DaniJohnson.com community, a faithful listener to this program, and one who started off with not the best set of circumstances and working really hard, yet not having the kind of success that he was hoping for. 5 years ago, I had the chance to meet McGuire, and it was actually not a great set of circumstances. I had agreed to come and be a part of an event for one of our clients who had a huge vision for helping a lot of people. And in the midst of all of his efforts of trying really, really hard to make that event successful, it just really was not. Yet, one great thing came out of it, and that was McGuire and his beautiful wife. A great new relationship that formed. I had no idea when I had the chance to meet this man. I'll never forget the first day meeting him and his wife. I never in a million years imagined that 5 years later that this is where his life would be. Nor did I know the set of circumstances that he was in, because all of us, we're taught in this world that we live in to kind of put on airs a little bit. We're kind of taught to not let on that we're not having the kind of success that we want. We're trying to keep up with the Joneses. That old saying that comes from those ancient passages that says there is the poor man who's trying to look rich, but the real rich actually look poor. And so, so make on the outside look like everything was going great, looked like he was making things happen. He was really super successful, but there was something inside of him that I really, really respected. And that was that he was hungry. He was hungry to learn. He was teachable. Well, today you're going to find out that where he started, where he is today, it's going to shock you, my friend. It's going to inspire you, because on the Dani Johnson Show every single day, we're bringing you content that is going to help you change your life. No one else can change your life, my friend. Nobody can change your life. Our president can't change your life. The prime minister of the country that you're living in, where you're watching this show from, cannot change your life. Your local government cannot change your life. Only you can change your life. And we all have the capacity to make our own decisions. We live in a society that's telling us to fake it until we make it. We live in a society that has predefined for us what success looks like. And the unfortunate thing is as many of us have tried to reach that predefined position of success, we found that it was empty, that it wasn't success, that it was painful, that it was a suffering, that it wasn't worth it. Everyone has a calling on their life. For some of us, our deepest desire is to be a great parent. For others of us, success is having a multi-million-dollar business. And if we don't have that multi-million-dollar business, we're not doing what we were called to do. But unfortunately, we have people who are called to be great parents trying to do something else, and they end up wearing suits that they should never be wearing, living a life that was never intended for them, and they are hopeless and depressed and oppressed by their current circumstances. So here on the Dani Johnson Show, we redefine what success looks like for you. There's a custom fit for you. And Lake has found that custom fit for him. McGuire, I got to tell you, I haven't stopped talking about you since I saw you last in Austin, Texas at First Steps to Success, because your story blew my mind. I had known that you had used the materials and that you had become successful, but I had no idea the level of success that you had reached. But more importantly, Lake, the thing that I was the most impressed with about you was how humble you were. You are more humble today, Lake, than you were 5 years ago when I met you. That is impressive. That's really impressive. So Lake, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're living in Austin, Texas. You're a new father and a husband devoted to your family first, your God first in your family, have a successful business in the diamond industry. But tell us about who I met back in 2009.
Well, thanks, Dani, first off, for having me on the show. It's really quite an honor to be here and to just tell my story and how you've helped me really turn around a lot of the areas of my life, my career, and more importantly, my relationship with God, my relationship with my wife. So when I first came to my very first event, which is the event you'd referenced earlier, I had started my business about a year and a half earlier, about maybe a year and a half earlier, and it was going okay, but I was struggling to get the business to really start cranking. My marriage was a complete disaster. I was living with a woman who didn't want to be married to me, who, I had hesitations about being married too. There was really not a lot of love there between us. We were just trying to coexist and make it work like I think most people do.
Yeah.
You know, I had not really had a lot of success leading up to that time in my life, and so I think I really lacked a lot of confidence to be a leader in my family, to be able to build a business that could do dynamic things and not just something that languished along.
Yeah.
So coming to my first event and hearing you speak, even though you spoke for about 15, 20 minutes, I was completely hooked. I knew that you had the wisdom to help me really revolutionize what I've been doing in my life. And really up to that point, I had 30 years, you know, under my belt on this planet, and it had been a really unfulfilling, disappointing existence, to be honest. So
how so, Lake? How was that a disappointing and unfulfilling existence in the first 30 years of your life? What was your childhood like? Because today, and by the way, I just want to fast forward for a second. Lake is a multimillionaire today. He literally is the quintessential story of a rags to riches story, but he lives his life in a very different way. And so if you're sitting there like, well, who is this guy? He literally in 5 years has become outrageously successful and lives a life that many people dream of. And how he lives it is very unique and authentic. And so, Lake, what was your childhood like? Because you said the first 30 years of life were pretty well pathetic. How so? Did you have like the wonderful Leave It to Beaver childhood, and you know what I mean, the Ivy League education, and you know, were you great in sports? You know, who was Lake prior to meeting DaniJohnson.com?
Childhood. I have really fantastic parents, but I was a very timid, insecure kid, so I didn't build a great relationship with my dad growing up. You know, and a lot of that, you know, kind of rests on me. And so I had kind of a troubled childhood in the sense that I never really felt connected.
Why? Why would you not feel connected to your parents?
I'm sorry, say again.
Why would you not feel connected to your parents?
You know, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I felt very connected to my mom, not so much my dad. My dad's an incredible guy, amazingly successful, has a fantastic heart. But, you know, I was born very late in life for him, and we just never had that connection when I was growing up. So in a lot of respects, I felt very isolated as a kid.
Were you an only child?
In rural Texas, not near other kids.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That makes sense. So you were an only child? Is that what I'm gathering?
No, I had a younger sister that was 2.5 years younger.
Okay.
The two of us.
Okay. All right. So did Dad work a lot?
Yeah, my dad worked a lot.
Okay.
He worked a lot. He ran a CPA and investment practice. Me and my mom both.
Okay.
So they're both successful entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And certainly laid a good foundation in that regard.
So then I guess the question is that did you feel not connected to your father because he was gone a lot, because he worked a lot? Was he a father that kind of had work on his brain a lot? And was there a lot of discussion about work at home as well?
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about work at home, and I certainly don't want to villainize my dad because he's just become an absolutely remarkable guy over the last decade and a half.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, my dad was in his 40s when I was born. He didn't really know how to connect to a kid. Yeah. I didn't know, obviously, as a kid, how to connect to my dad.
Right.
So we just never really had that relationship growing up. It was very contentious.
Gotcha. Okay, so then from there, you had started in business and it was failing and you had a hard time connecting with your wife. Now, I want to go there for a minute. At the time, you know, when you were saying she didn't want to live with you and you didn't really want to live with her, Hans and I have been in that place. When you were there, because I want to kind of expose a mindset that comes up in so many couples' lives, did you feel at some point that you married the wrong woman?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hit the nail on the head and drove it through the board. Yes, ma'am.
And what about her? How did she feel? Did she feel she married the wrong guy?
I'm pretty certain she did. Yeah.
Did you guys ever say that to each other? Did you ever say to each other, like, we should have never gotten married, you know, things like that?
Yes. We had a lot of arguments, and I think we expressed a lot of regret about marrying each other and wasting our time with each other.
Yeah.
So there were many times that she asked me for divorce. She wanted to leave. Probably at least half a dozen by the time I came to your first show.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so now here's where I want to pick up the story. So your business is not growing. Your marriage is toxic. You both are just filled with regrets at this point. And I remember seeing you. I remember seeing your beautiful wife. You have an incredible smile, Lake. You and your wife are very good-looking people. And, you felt very educated and all of that. But I remember you and I having our very first business consulting appointment. And I remember reading the very detailed form that you filled out. I mean, you really went for it with filling out this form. And I don't know if you remember the very first thing I said to you on our very first phone call. Do you remember what I said to you?
I think you first asked me to pray, but I don't remember after that, no.
Right away, I said, Lake, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to help you. And you said, why? And I said, because you think higher of yourself than you ought. That's how our first appointment started. And which also brings me to, because I had seen recently a video that you were on, that you really focused on all the things that you thought you were great at, but that you just kind of threw underneath the rug the weaknesses that you had that you were just maybe trying to ignore and maybe thought other people didn't know about those things. Where did that bring you in life? Like not being honest with yourself. What did that do to your life?
Well, I mean, it's like trying to drive a car with three tires on it. You can go, but you're not going to go very fast, and it's going to be a pretty difficult existence. So, I think I did what a lot of people do, and that's simply that I really focused on what I was good at, and I tried to find excuses for what I wasn't.
Yeah.
And when anything would come to light about where I was falling short, whether it was in business, in relationships, in my marriage, and my church community, there was always an excuse, but I'm good at X, Y, Z.
Right.
So
and you're right. This is what
really
most people do.
In my life.
Yep, this is what most people do. This is Dani Johnson. We're going to continue more with Lake getting underneath his incredibly radical success story right after this. The whole story of how I went from homeless to millions is right here in this book, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. Just dial 888-757-8880. You can get your free copy of this book. It's like a real book, my friend. You can get an ebook copy for free right now, or if you'd like to pay the shipping to get this $15 book to your house, I'd be happy to send it to you. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of First Steps to Wealth today and begin on a brand new path of some great success.
And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
I remember my early days as a budding entrepreneur. And I remember thinking I was nothing that I was good at. And that actually really was stemmed from my childhood. You see, in order to become successful, you've got to become teachable. And Teachable is actually one of the things that helped me in the very beginning of my career as a businesswoman, because I knew nothing. I knew I was terrible at everything. My father had told me I was a failure my whole life, so I knew I was a failure. And so when I started out in business, I got started on a failure equation. I figured that if I failed the income of the millionaire's income, then I still would, 90%, if I failed it by 90%, I'd still be making $100,000 a year. And I would never make $100,000 a year working at the mall, which is where I was working when I first kind of ventured out to start in my first business. Joining me today is Lake McGuire from Austin, Texas, an incredible man who literally went from failing in business to millions of dollars. We're getting underneath his story and learning, wow, what were the key ingredients that helped him to become successful? I met Lake 5 years ago, he and his wife, and on the outside, everything looked like it was really wonderful, but on the inside, there was a giant mess that most of us, when we are in a mess, we try to cover it up, we try to spray paint it, we try to nip and tuck it, we try to get a mirror, deflect it. We try to do everything possible so that nobody actually knows what's really going on behind closed doors, what's really going on inside of our bank accounts, because if people actually knew how I was failing, then they wouldn't like me anymore. But the reality is people don't like fake people anyway. So Lake and I had our first coaching appointment, about 5 years ago, right about now. And interestingly enough, Lake was just explaining to us that he used to really focus on what his strengths were. And then when it came to weaknesses kind of being exposed in certain situations, he'd make excuses for those. You can't make excuses for your weaknesses. You've got to shore up those weaknesses. And when we put a focus on nothing but our strengths and we try to hide our weaknesses, we will never reach the level of leadership or the level of success that we were designed to. So honestly, here on the Dani Johnson Show, we redefine success. We pick it apart and we get underneath the hood and we actually really show what does it actually take to succeed in our families, in our finances, in our churches, in our communities, with our talents and our abilities that have been placed inside of us. How do we pull those out and really maximize those things? And so Lake was just telling us that that's what he used to do. He used to just focus on what his strengths were, make excuses and even probably blame from time to time. Did you ever think, Lake, that your wife was the reason why you were not successful?
I never thought my wife was the reason I wasn't successful. I thought my wife was the reason we had a bad marriage.
And you probably didn't think that your marriage was tied to your lack of success in business as well.
Took me a while to figure that one out. But of course, once I did, everything changed.
Isn't that wild? Because it's so true, right? If we've got a bad relationship with our spouse and we're blaming our spouse for the reason why the relationship is bad, how do we work? So talk to me about that. What was it like knowing, okay, you have a spat with your bride, right? You don't feel like you should be married to her. She doesn't think she should be married to you. How were you able to work with that festering inside of your heart and inside of your mind? How successful can you be when that is inside of you?
Well, obviously not very successful because I needed to come to you to get help. So, yeah, it had not been very good. Mm-hmm. I mean, we worked together a lot. She helped me with the business, and it was contentious at all times.
Yeah,
we were constantly gritting our teeth.
And it's so hard to try to market a product or a service when you're gritting your teeth with your coworker, and then you have to sleep with that broad. You know what I mean? And this is one area that most people try to ignore. And it's something that I talk about every single week here on the Dani Johnson Show, because your relationships with your family really have an impact on your earning potential and the value that you bring into the marketplace. Because if there's so much contention, and I love the word that you're using, contention, it's like a festering, it's worse than a fight. It's like a constant bubbling right beneath the surface, and at any time, boom, there's a boil over. Kind of like when you're trying to make a beautiful Alfredo sauce on the stove, and you've got your heavy cream, you got your butter, and you have it just turned at the right heat. But if you don't pay attention and you turn away for too long, now all of a sudden, boom, you've got it boiling over, and just turning off the heat doesn't make it stop. It just keeps continuing to boil over. And so that does. And so here's what I challenge you that is listening to Lake's story right now. Again, he went from failure to millions. As a successful businessman, even working from home, he and his wife have a very successful business. And how did they do that? One of the things that we've got to do is we've got to deal with the issues that are at home. And as we help to mend those issues at home, that success and that joy and the lack of contention there now spreads into the workplace, and our earning potential increases just by the harmony that's happening in the home. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Cleaning out your stinkin' thinking. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
But I'm so blessed that I found what is in Grooming the Next Generation for Success. This is a book that is being taught in universities around the world. It's been noted as the best book on parenting that has ever been written. Crazy, if you ask me. But the point is that this thing gets results. Get your copy today, 888-757-8880. Again, that's 888-757-8880. Or go to DaniJohnson.com. That's DANI Johnson.com. Get your copy today.
Are you ready for a whole new mindset? This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Okay, so there you are, right? You and your spouse, you just get into it on your way to work, on the phone, right? Okay, so tell me, how is the drive to work if you and your spouse are just like, you're just at each other? And it could even be your teenage son or your 20-year-old son, just, oh man, you're just upset. What kind of performance are you having at work? Well, you're certainly not smiling with a wonderful heart to the receptionist now, are you? You're certainly not walking into your office like, I am so glad to be here. No, you throw your keys on the desk, you thump your computer on the desk, you ignore the person that was at the door. You don't even know how you got to work, right? Have you ever had that happen to you? You don't know how you got there. This is where a lot of people find themselves. And you know what I think is sad? Is that my husband and I lived that way for a long time. But when we lived that way, our business suffered as well, because we can't perform nor think clearly or solve problems or have creativity at work or solve, important complex issues and problems with people when we're already walking in the door missing an arm or missing a leg, missing a heart that should be in the right place. So we're actually not only not performing well at work, but we're actually causing other people to not perform well at work as well. And then what do? Well, some people end up fired. Some people end up out of business. Some people end up really hurting other people that are around them. And then they end up with a reputation that certainly doesn't help them to succeed. So then what do? Well, friend, listen. You got to fix those internal issues in order to have real long-lasting success. And this is what we see. The world is telling us out there that success looks like all, the big house and the big cars and, all the big diamonds and all that stuff. That's what the world is telling us success is. But all we have to do is look at the lifestyle of the rich and famous and notice that they've been divorced about 4 times. And yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of a mess, isn't it? So we want to make sure that we don't follow that path, but that you define success for you. What's the perfect fit for you? Joining me today, Lake McGuire, he found what the perfect size, fit, color was for him. And one of the issues was cleaning up that marriage. All right, so Lake, 5 years ago, we ended up coaching and doing some business consulting together. And what changed? Like your whole life completely changed. Obviously not overnight, but you put into practice some important disciplines that have brought you to the $1 million man that you are today.
The first time that I did coaching with you, and even the first steps I went to in Los Angeles back in 2009, there were a number of key details that you pointed out in me, or that you mentioned from the stage, that just resonated with me, and I feel like really it's what ignited that fire that kind of led me to where I am today. What
was the thing that ignited you at First Steps to Success, which, by the way, we're going to be in LA again coming up here, which is exciting. But anyway, so what was it that you heard from the stage that ignited you? You made some new decisions while sitting in that First Steps to Success seminar.
So the first thing that really got me, the very first morning, you started telling a story about how we treat other people. And you used an example of, how you treat your boss, but then you transitioned that to, how do you treat your wife? Do you treat your wife like she is amazing, like she's the most beautiful woman in the world, like you are more grateful for her than the air you breathe every day?
Yes.
And then you made the analogy that if you treat people like you envision them being, they will become that person.
Yes.
And it was in that moment that it clicked for me, and I realized that I can't sell my vision for others to other people if I treat them like what I view them to be.
Yes. That's huge.
I can't treat them poorly. I can't interact with them as if they're stupid or they're incompetent, etc., if I have this vision of them being this incredible wife, an incredible employee, or an incredible client.
Yes.
And so that really helped me to realize that I have to sell myself and my vision to other people, and I can't just expect them to just get it.
That's right. And what determines whether or not they get it, Lake, is how we treat them. Because if we treat them like they're stupid, if we treat them like they don't matter, if we treat people like they are a nuisance to us and they are incompetent, then they're going to act the way we treat them. So then here we have this idea, this vision of this business or the success that we want to have, this plan that we want to present, but they can't receive the vision because we have already told them by our nonverbal communication that they're stupid, they're incompetent, they're a nuisance, and they're a waste of our time. It's huge. And see, managers do this all the time. Heads of households do this. Mothers do this to their children. This was something I had to work on with one of my kids because it would be like, what? Come on, how could you not get this? You know, and it was like, gosh, man, I was so convicted because it was my impatience or me not understanding how they learned caused me to now put a face on that made them feel like they were stupid. And this does not help to bring unity. This doesn't help to bring harmony. This doesn't help to create teamwork. This doesn't help to create a relationship where we're saying, yes, let's do this. Yes, let's go. Yes, we can. I love it that you caught that lake from the stage. I love it that you were sitting there with who knows how many people that were there. I just know that in Austin, we had 1,200 people that were there. But you know, there's 1,200 people in the room hearing these words, hearing this kind of stuff, this teaching being dripped from the stage. And some people, it goes right over their head. But Lake, you got it. You got that I have to go home and I have to treat my wife better. I have to treat my employees better. And if I'm treating my prospects, my prospective clients better than I'm treating my wife, right? Because we think about, wow, when we're out there promoting, in your case, diamonds, if we're promoting our diamond business, well then, we're dealing with these high-end clients, we're dealing with people with money. So you look at what kind of honor we shower them with, what kind of respect we shower them with. We write them thank you cards, right? we give them that extra special service. But if we're not doing that at home with our spouse and kids, we're a hypocrite. And being a hypocrite is clearly not an option. So where do we go from here? So Lake, let's go back here. So you came out of First Steps to Success. And what is one of the very first things that you changed? Because you got that understanding that I need to treat my wife better. You know, I need to treat my employees better. If I want them to catch the vision of what I'm trying to build, what was one of the first things that you implemented in the home as well as at work? Because those were, the same place.
Well, I really spent a lot of time thinking through my decisions whenever I'd make them, both at home and in work. I tended to be very impulsive. What I thought came out of my mouth. What I thought is what I did. And I realized I had to be a lot more pragmatic and think through my decisions. So, but I think that the thing that really changed everything for me, even beyond really connecting with what you had said about honoring other people and understanding that, your life's doors are going to be opened by people and you have to honor them, build them up, edify them. But the thing that really connected to me was motivation. In the latter part of the first day at First Steps, you had actually said, you'd started talking about the parable of the talent.
Yes.
And you mentioned about how, the master gave a guy 1 talent, gave another guy 2 talents, and another guy 5 talents. And those talents was money.
Yep.
And the guy with the 5 talents went and invested it, got 100% return on it. The guy with the 2 talents invested it, got 100% return on it. The guy with the 1 talent was afraid of his master, so he dug a hole and he buried his talent.
Yep.
And so when the master came back, he was very pleased with the ones that had gotten a return on his investment, and he was very displeased with the one who had gotten no return.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment, listening to that I realized I've been a 1 talent guy.
Yeah.
Not that I haven't been given even more blessings than quote unquote 1 talent, but I realized that my entire life, my failures were because I took everything that had been given to me, that had been entrusted to me, my life, my time, my wife, my education, my experiences, everything that had been invested in me by God, I'd taken and I'd buried it. I'd always tried to just get by. And I think that was the key ingredient for me, is realizing that everything I have is not my own.
That's right.
I don't own my time. I use it, but it can be taken from me this very minute. I don't own my money. It's in my bank account, but it can be taken from me. I don't own my wife. She was a blessing. All of these things were blessings that were invested into my life. And I'm going to be held account for what return I get on every single one of them. How I use my house, how I use my car, how I use my tongue. My tongue is a blessing. It's a blessing to be able to speak English every day.
Yes.
But how do I use that?
Yes.
That broke me. That broke me so hard. And all of the other stuff that you started speaking, it just started piercing my heart over and over and over. And I realized that I had to go home. And it wasn't just about making superficial changes so that things were smooth. I realized it's not mine.
That's right.
I have an obligation to get a return on what has been invested in me.
Yes. And right there, we're going to take a quick break. We'll pick this up. I'm telling you, so powerful, like what you pulled out of First Steps to Success. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more after this.
Don't go away. The next segment might just change your life. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
I just heard this amazing story. One of our clients had written us telling us that they had used job domination and unlimited success and has absolutely exploded their career. He said, Dani, I don't know where I'd be today without job domination and unlimited success. Listen, do you want more recognition from your coworkers? Do you want to be recommended to people all over the world? Do you want to be somebody that is highly sought after? Listen, if you're in a dead-end place where this gentleman found himself, but then learned new strategies and changed everything in his work life, and obviously this has resulted in higher bonuses and pay raises, you're next. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Job Domination right now. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Job domination. That's what you need. It's time for you to dominate the job market and break through the rut that you're in.
And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
He who is faithful with a little will be made ruler over much, much more. I know you've probably heard that before. But the reality is that are you putting that into practice? Joining me today is McGuire. When he came out of his first steps to success, his whole life completely changed. You see, it's important to implement things that we learn, but it's also important to continue, to not fall back after you've had a little bit of success, but to press ahead, to keep yourself diligent, to bring excellence in every area of your life. Because as we just heard Lake saying, that one of the things that he got at First Steps to Success was that he needed to make things better in every area of his life. That these things that he had in his life had been entrusted into him, and that he needed to make sure that it's better than when he had been given it. So powerful, man. And what you were just saying in that last segment, I had tears in my eyes just going, yes. Number one, because you so got the message. And I see how God had shown you kind of like a spotlight over every area of your life, that you've been given all of these things and how you treat those things, and that he's gonna hold you accountable for how you've treated your wife. He's gonna hold you accountable for what you do with your business, what you do with your money, what you do with your time, what you do with your tongue, what you do with your feet, where you go in life. These things, we are held accountable, and we will have to settle accounts with our Maker who planted these things inside of our lives. And I love that you really got that message. So from there, you obviously started implementing excellence and diligence, and you started treating your home different. You started treating your wife different. You treated the business different, the clients different. Fast forward, those things that you implemented, where are you today, Lake? What's life like today?
Well, I'm happy to say that my wife and I are about to celebrate 11 years together. It's not been 11 amazing years, but it has been a really incredible journey since we started coming to First Steps, and have kept coming to First Steps, Dynasty, listening to shows, watching videos. Our marriage is incredible. It's not perfect. Every day we're refining. Some days we step back. Some days we take big steps forward. Yeah. But it's been a really awesome time. We just welcomed our first child into the world. We had a daughter back in September, so she's now 5 months old. And it's been really incredible just knowing that we, through your program, through everything that you teach, especially, raising the next generation for success, that we have the tools and skills in front of us in order to be able to raise our daughter so that she doesn't have the same chains wrapped around her neck that we both had when we were raised. My business has absolutely exploded. Last year, we crossed into the top 15% largest single location jewelry companies in America.
Wow.
We have employees and contract employees around the world.
Wow.
I do business on every continent with the exception of Antarctica, largely because penguins don't buy diamonds. The business has been absolutely incredible. We've been able to work with a ton of charities that we've been passionate about.
Yes.
And I mean, life's good. It's not perfect.
Of course.
I mean, a lot of people see success, they see, a paycheck, and they think, oh, that makes life so good. Well, no. It's what you do with that success.
Yes.
It's the journey.
Yes.
It's what you do with what you get when you're on that journey. It's not the paycheck that really changes your life.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're having a great time, and we're, as much as people will say that I'm successful, and I appreciate the compliments, I don't feel successful. I've surrounded myself with so many people who are brilliant and talented and articulate and have skills and abilities and talents and things that I don't have. I feel very small, and it makes me want to grow big.
Yeah.
So I don't really feel like I've arrived. I really feel like the journey's only begun.
Yeah. And in 5 years, you know what I mean, to go from totally broke to millions of dollars and completely debt-free. You guys are totally debt-free. Your house is paid for. You have no car debt. You have no debt at all. And to be able to support things like the Santa Pancha project. When we were in Austin, you heard about that project that King's Ransom and Food for the Poor are working on. And man, I just saw your heart just be moved and committing. You're actually going to give 5 families a brand new life. How awesome is it that, 5 years ago, you could not help your own family have a good life. And now you're working on a project to where you are helping 5 families get a brand new home in Santa Pancha, Nicaragua, where these people have no home. I mean, they have scrap wood that's all pulled together. I mean, if you go to the website, if you go to kingsransom.org, you're listening right now, you go to kingsransom.org, you'll see right on the homepage, it says Santa Pancha, Nicaragua. If you click on that, it's going to take you to a page which is going to show you the pictures of the houses of like Pablo and Sandra, which Lake, I mean, that has to be like crazy to you when you think about that could have been you. It really could have been me because I'm Nicaraguan. My father was born in Nicaragua, and my father was quite the player, had lots of women. I could have easily been impregnated. My mom could have been impregnated in Nicaragua. I could have been born there and been born in this extreme poverty. And Lake, I look at you and think, man, you've made so much money. You're debt-free, you're financially independent, you've become a real husband, a real leader, and now a father for the first time in your life, and yet you're not stopping there. It's like, who can I help to have a better life? Who can I give a chance? And you're helping the families like Pablo and Sandra who are living in extreme poverty. The day that I was in their house, they had no food. The day that I was in their house, they had no water. The water they had was now 3 days old, boiling. This little pot is all they had. I searched the house. There was no food in their house. Okay, this little tiny pot of water, like what in the world was she going to do with this? I have no idea. The smoke that was in the house, because they're burning coal inside of this wooden structure that's not even a structure. It's like, I hope the wind doesn't blow too hard because it's over if it is. But you are helping people like Pablo to start a business for himself by helping to provide him with a rooster, 4 hens. They're going to make eggs. They can sell eggs. They can multiply those chickens. They can sell those chickens, sell the meat. They can start a little restaurant if they wanted to because of the help of what you and your wife are doing. You're not just keeping the money for yourself. You're not being greedy. You know it's not your own, but instead you're going to help 5 families in Santa Pancha, Nicaragua. That just blew my mind. And by the way, you started something because you stepping up to say, I'm committing to 5 houses. I'm going to take care of 5 homes, 5 families that we're going to give a brand new start. How did it feel in that moment to be able to know that you could do that? You could write a check and buy 5 people a brand new future, a completely different destiny, no longer living in extreme poverty. How does that feel to be in that place today?
Well, it felt incredible. I mean, if you remember back from, the very beginnings of my story, which we hadn't even talked about, 15 years ago, I was homeless living in a broke-down car in L.A. So I know what it feels like to not have anything, to not have a home.
Yep.
I know what it feels like to be poor, not third world country poor, but
poor.
I understand it.
Yes, and it's hard when you can't even think about where am I going to get food.
My wife and I.
Yeah, where am I going to get food? Where am I going to get water? Where am I going to sleep tonight? This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more with Lake right after this.
If you've given up hope for your nation, your family, or even your own life, then this show is for you. It's the Dani Johnson Show.
This is your chance. This is your shot. Get your copy of War on Debt right now. There's one waiting for you that has your family's name on it. And inside that package is freedom. Your freedom, your family's freedom is on the inside of that package. All you have to do is open it up, press play, and start applying what I teach you in this program. 888-757-8880. You and I are going to help your family become completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years. Just imagine how that's going to feel.
So, what is success? A big house? A big title? A big fat paycheck? Dani Johnson has had them all, and you need to hear what she discovered. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
From homeless to millions. Yes, that's my story, but it's also Lake's story. And now these two former homeless people. And Lake, did I hear you say that you were living in a Hyundai?
No, it wasn't a Hyundai.
Because that's what I was living in.
It was a broke-down Chevy.
Nice.
Oh, was it?
It was. When the Hyundais first came out in the market, 25 years ago, they were not a nice car. Today, they're very, very nice. Back then, they were not a nice car. But both of us have lived in our car. Both of us have experienced poverty. And now today, we have joined forces to be able to help the poor and give them a brand new life. Like, how does that feel? How does that feel to know that you perhaps... you are making it possible for a man and his wife and his children to be picked up in a van, brought to a totally different location and handed keys. That has a chicken pen with chickens in it, and tomorrow there'll be food because those chickens will lay eggs tomorrow morning. How does that feel to you as a man to do that for another man?
I love it. I love it. It's exactly what we were put on earth to do. We weren't put on earth to just consume for ourselves. We were put on earth to help others.
Yep.
And we all get help in some way.
Yes.
Every single one of us are where we are in life because someone has opened doors, because someone has said a kind word, because someone has given us $1 or paid for an education, or you, for instance. You do all your seminars for free.
Yep.
For free. You literally work for free, and the money goes to charity.
Yep.
And because of that, people like me are able to have a hope and a future. So while I didn't have a house built for me, I had words sowed in my heart that turned around and allowed me to then turn around and provide houses and to heal my marriage, etc. So I've been exactly where they are, the people in Nicaragua that we're helping. I've had opportunity given to me. So it feels great to be able to give someone opportunity because that if they take advantage of that opportunity, it's going to change not only their lives, it's going to change the direction of their kids' lives and their kids' lives.
Yes.
It's a generational change.
Yes.
And that's incredible.
Yes. And I'm so proud of you. All of us who have had the chance to hear your story, see your gorgeous face and your wife and now this new baby that you have in your life. I am so blessed and inspired by the changes that you've made. And most importantly, because you're a man. You're a real man. And you're not a man who has become successful in a very short period of time that then says, serve me. But instead, you are serving others. And that's the kind of leadership that we need in the world today. Lake, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy business schedule, your life schedule, and spending time with us here, inspiring everybody that had the chance to listen to your story. This is Dani Johnson. Listen, follow in Lake's footsteps. First steps to success. You need to get there immediately. Go to DaniJohnson.com and click on See Her Live and get on out to First Steps to Success. Don't wait. Your success is waiting for you. Who knows, you might be the next Lake McGuire. You might be someone that now is inspiring others from all over the world. God bless you. Have a great rest of the day. I remember being homeless and broke and broken in every way and being overloaded with financial pressure, the pressure that I was a failure, the social pressure, everything that I felt like was crashing down on top of me. And at the same time, I felt so alone until I learned the strategies of first steps to success. You have the chance, my friend, to annihilate all of your debt. Think about that. You have the chance to grow your income through your current career or even learning to start a brand new business that will be profitable. You also have the chance for learning how to motivate the people that are in your life that are driving you crazy and how to have significant breakthrough, not only spiritually, but physically, financially, and socially, and business-wise. And so I'm excited to see you at First Steps to Success. It's coming up January 17th through the 19th. Get yourself registered today, 888-757-8880. There's a seat with your name on it, friend. 888-757-8880.